It's alive! It's alive!
I'm Steph.
And I'm Ange.
We're
Nerdazons.
I couldn't even do it without laughing.
That was good though.
I don't know why I hate doing that. It's only you and me, and then my
I
partner
know.
listening in the other room.
I know.
It's so awkward. Okay, so this was my choice, Frankenstein, the original book to the movie, the first movie, 1931. I chose this one because it's a movie that I really, really love, and I love most adaptations of it that I have seen. And I just find it such a traumatic story, but like tragic, beautiful at the same time.
Mhm.
And I've always kind of really liked that. So I thought, you know what? I haven't read the book. This could be the time for me to read/listen to the book. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, 1818. Frankenstein tells the story of gifted scientist Victor Frankenstein, who succeeds in giving life to a being of his own creation. However, this is not the perfect specimen he imagines that it will be, but rather a hideous creature who is rejected by Victor and mankind in general. The monster seeks its revenge through murder and terror. So Frankenstein the movie, 1931. Dr. Frankenstein dares to tamper with life and death by creating a human monster out of lifeless body parts.
So there is a massive difference.
I didn't know that either. I was just like, okay.
When I was first listening, because I decided I was going to listen because it was too hard to read because it was full of old-timey words, and I was like, so I ended up listening to it. I was telling Ange before that I had to put it on like double speed because the author was just very slow, but it was great. But wow, so interesting. But what I was originally going to say is that when the book first started and it was chapter 1, it was like, Ange, am I reading the right book? Because it's all like letters. I don't understand. And she's like, no, keep listening.
Yeah, so the book, I listened through Audible, and it was narrated by Dan Stevens, who is in the live action Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson. So he's the Beast. Fun fact. So it was very similar to Bram Stoker's Dracula, where it was written in journal entry, and that's also a bit hard for people to read as well. But yeah, I found once you got through the first 5 letters and Victor Frankenstein started telling the actual story, it got a lot easier. And Dan Stevens had more variation to his voice because more characters were in the story at that point, as opposed to just the captain talking to his sister. And then when you get through that, I was really shocked at how different this story was. I think because I always started off with the 1931 story. Everyone knows that story of Frankenstein, and I just didn't realize how much more Victor. I always knew Frankenstein was like Dr. Frankenstein was the monster, but he is so much more the villain in the book.
I could not stand him. He was such a mummy's boy and such a tantrum little. I did not like him, but I was intrigued by him.
He was so selfish.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how much more I hated him after listening to that book. I've always hated the fact of, it's similar to what I said in King Kong. You tampered with something that shouldn't be tampered with, and then you're going to shun that because it doesn't work out for you.
I'm gonna confess something here. I knew who Mary Shelley was. I'd never read this book. I'd never seen anything Frankenstein other than what's in pop culture, like the cartoons and stuff. I'd never seen anything Frankenstein before. And I'm one of those people that thought Frankenstein was the monster.
Oh yeah, no, it's Frankenstein's monster.
I know. And I was like, yeah. Frankenstein's actually the guy who created. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was the same when I first found out when I was younger. I was just like, oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, back to the story. I think it's one thing I will have to say. This is going to be a really hard one to I guess, mark, in my opinion, because the book story had so much more to it, yet at the same time it left so much to the reader's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the things you see in the movie of, the lightning, because I always thought that was a key part of this experiment. The lightning is what
Mm-hmm.
gives him life, and all of that. That's not in the book. Frankenstein is on the boat telling the captain the story. That's how we're listening to it as the the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want to tell anyone how he did it because he wants to take that secret to the grave. He
Yep.
doesn't want anyone to repeat his mistake. So not once is it talked about how the reanimation process works. And I just found that really interesting.
Same. Although, like, I found that super interesting and slightly creepy that he was going to marry his cousin. And that, I
Well, they're
guess
not
that's,
blood related.
I get it, but like,
She was adopted.
yeah, but still, it's like your sister. You still grew up together. It's a bit to me. One thing I did struggle with the book, because it did have a lot of old timey words and things like that kind of threw me off. But also, the book, I don't know whether or not I hated it or I liked it. They talked about so much about where they were. Oh my gosh, those mountains were so beautiful. The mountains were green, blah, blah, blah. And it just took too much time on the scenery, kind of like Lord of the Rings. There's like 3 chapters of this blade of grass is this long. It's this shade of green. You're like,
I didn't have an issue with that. If anything, I think it helped like visualize where you were.
Yeah, but then I think that as well. I'm like, I don't know if it just irked me. Like it was cool at the beginning when they were like, the seas are this, it's all on the boat, blah blah blah. But then as it got on, I'm just like, I don't care about these mountains anymore.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I didn't have an issue with it. No, it was really good. I think once you get into it, I couldn't stop. I was staying on late because I was listening to it while I was working, and I was staying on later just so I could finish the book when I was watching it. I really liked the story of both. So I just want to quickly go to the story of the movie. So they really emphasized who was the monster and who, I guess, were the good people, which I still am so opposed to. They really emphasized that Frankenstein's monster is the villain of the film. They make him super grotesque, and hideous, which is what I love about like prosthetics and stuff back then, because they actually do the job. And the story's really quite simple. It starts off very quick. This is where, and same again, I always thought he was part of the story until I listened to the book. But Igor is there. Everyone knows Igor was Dr. Frankenstein's assistant. And it was mind-blowing that he wasn't in the book.
Yeah, and that there were so many characters that were missing from the movie to the book.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in characters. But just back to this story really quickly, I still really like the movie story of this. I think it's a really good, classic thriller. I think they really captured the essence of tampering with life and bringing it back, raising it from the dead. I thought that was really cool. I just think there's lots of fun elements to the movie that I still really love. Like, I love that if they had have taken the right brain, would the experiment have worked?
I know. That's one of the biggest things. I was like, do I wait until characters? Do I not? Because I'm just going to say Frankenstein's monster is completely different. Completely different. I'm just going to call it Frankenstein because it's too confusing for me right now. The monster in the book, he is very intelligent. He learns different languages. He, is capable of living by himself.
Yeah. How about we start with characters? Yes. Because and we'll start with Frankenstein. I'll let you continue.
Thank you for agreeing with me, Frankenstein. And they pick up in the movie, they pick up the dumb brain and that he is a zombie. And in the book, you connect with the monster a lot more. I'm just like, you poor thing. Like, you were created and your master has just gone, you're too ugly, whatever, bye.
Yeah, it was rejection immediately. I didn't realize it was as soon as he opened his eyes, he ran from the lab. And it's like, dude, you've been playing with body parts for months putting this together. And as soon as your experiment worked, you ran away. And he was gone. He didn't go back for like months.
I know. And also, when he was like, I just want somebody to love me.
It's so sad.
I was like, make him Bride of Frankenstein.
I know.
Bring back Billy Piper.
I completely side with the monster. But I did want to mention that since you've made that reference with Billy Piper. So when I listened to the book and then I watched the movie again, I was like, Penny Dreadful is probably one of the only adaptations that got the monster accurate to the book. And he said almost, it wasn't until I sat back and I thought, wow, he actually said a lot of the same things. Like he did a lot of the same things where he was observing people and wanting to just feel connection or just being part of something and not this creature in the shadows. Like he didn't ask to be that, but he got put there. And, he was educated. He was reading books in Penny Dreadful. And I thought, wow, this is probably the closest monster that we've seen to the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I never finished it. I should finish Penny Dreadful. Does it? Okay.
It ends 3 seasons and it ends.
It does end?
I find it perfectly.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
and then they did
one.
Penny Dreadful City of Angels with Natalie Dormer. Yeah, and I never watched that one, but I just think 3 seasons, perfect, and it wraps it up.
Okay, because I got I think I got 2 seasons into it and I needed to finish it.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's just, even Billy Piper's end is kind of sad a bit.
Oh. Honey to the bee.
So out of the two, I guess, things that we're comparing, I have to say I can see what the movie did by putting a criminal brain in there, and I feel like it's almost a way for the audience to not feel sympathy for the monster, whereas in the book, like, you really sympathize for him. Like, he spent months on his own observing somewhere where he thinks he could fit in, and just to be outcast immediately and no one will listen to him, not even the person who created him. So you really feel for him. But I can see why they did it for the movie, and I kind of also like the fact that he was a monster and you can just have like fun with just a scary horror film.
Story-wise, I think the book wins. Definitely.
Oh yeah, it's so much more involved.
I really like the fact that the monster was just like, you know what? You're gonna like stuff with me. I'm gonna kill everybody that loves you. And that's what I liked about the whole story, is that he said, oh, I'm gonna come to you on your wedding night. I'm gonna come to your wedding night. And you just think he's gonna kill Frankenstein. And then you find out, he's killed the wife. And I was like, oh, like, kill somebody who loves you, I was like, this
he literally took everyone away. But what's interesting to me is it didn't have to get to that point,
No, it didn't.
And that's a big difference. Again, I know we're not comparing it, but I'm just going to mention it. In Penny Dreadful, he starts off trying to educate that monster, and then I can't remember because it's been so long since I've seen it, and then that's when he leaves and then goes out and educates himself even further.
You're right. Like, it's hard to decide of which is the best Frankenstein,
because they're very different vibes. Because there's, as a film as well, like, this film was groundbreaking in the horror genre, and in fact pretty much most Frankenstein adaptations you'll see later all spark from this. Like, this had a vision of the reanimation that no one else had.
This was the very first science fiction story.
Yeah.
So that's, Mary Shelley was cuckoo.
It's cool though. I like it.
I know. She was so goth, she shit bats.
I love that. Should we move on to Dr. Frankenstein?
Yes.
I didn't realize how many problems this guy had until I listened to the book. Like, red flag warnings everywhere with this guy.
Yeah.
Especially when he was like 10 and he's like, oh, was it 10? Or he was probably about 8, I think, when they went to adopt the girl.
Yeah.
And he's like, I saw it as she was mine and mine only. She was a gift to me from my mother. And I'm like, what is wrong with that?
That's why
8-year-old would be thinking that.
And that's why it kind of freaks me out that everybody's like, you're going to marry your cousin. First of all, you're calling her your cousin, which is creepy as it is, but also you grew up together as childhoods.
I get that. I do get that element. Times were different as well.
That's right.
Remember that. Like, they probably weren't as close because she was a girl and she would have been, like, raised as a lady. But at the same time, sorry to cut you off, but at the same time, she was fully aware that she was not blood related, and they all knew that. So even though they called each other cousin, they all knew they weren't blood related.
Yeah, that's right. But also back then, even if it was your cousin,
It
keep
was
the
like an
bloodline.
arranged marriage. It
Yeah,
just seemed
I
like,
know,
so I
but it
didn't
just,
see it because I knew it was sort of set in that time. I didn't really, I mean, today's standards, yeah, that's creepy, but
I guess, and I think that's probably why is that I'm thinking about it in our time.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was so, like, even just the fact that they really show the level of fascination he had with having to unlock what life was. And
Hmm.
in my head, I was like, this guy is like so close to killing cats and skinning them or something. Like he seemed serial killer level to me.
Yeah, and he seemed so mild in the movie.
He had that hero vibe. You know how in like classic films, men had that Hollywood face and
Hmm.
that Hollywood smile? He kind of had that, and I thought, why? Like this guy, no, he is sick. He was grave robbing.
Speaking of that, I have a little fun fact. So, you know, when it's alive, it cut out at that only in the 80s did they find that that it had actually been cut and censored. He then says, I feel like I'm a god. And also the scene where the monster is with the little girl and she's like, oh, my flowers float, my flowers float. He goes to grab her, but he actually then grabs her and he actually throws her in the water because he thinks she can float like
Float too, yeah.
he can float too. So that's another scene that was also added in recently.
Oh, okay, interesting. I always thought that was in it. I didn't know that that was like lost footage. I just always
Hmm.
thought that was part of the story.
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. Because it's a big thing, like, and that's what sparks the debate. Even if he had a criminal mind, he was still ready to learn. And like there was sheer panic on his face when he thought she's not coming back up. Like he looked so scared and he was trying to run to find someone and then they just attacked him. And that's where it's just like, even when he was sitting there on the seat, he only freaked out because the fire was near him. So yeah, it's still that whole debate. Is he really the monster of the story? But
Frankenstein's totally the monster.
oh
He's,
yeah,
like you said, red flags everywhere.
yeah.
And I get it, you want to be a scientist and things like that, but he was such a mummy's boy and wanted to make sure that I don't know, he was just, I just
I feel like he was
didn't
someone who
connect.
didn't want to, and he didn't even
Face the
write through.
consequences.
I was just about to say that. Yes, he didn't want to own up to his mistakes right through to the end. And one thing that really irked me with his character in the book was every time he would try and talk to him and just say, "Just listen to me," he'd be like, "Be gone, creature. Go back to the depths of hell." And it's like, you like, are you not going to like at least acknowledge the fact that you brought him here?
Yeah.
And he doesn't, not once. And it's just
And
like,
going back to where he was having the conversation of give me a woman, he's like, but if I give her if I make him a companion, is she going to then be as screwed up in the head as he is she going to then comply with trade that we made, that if I make him a partner, they'll leave me alone? Oh, and just turned selfish and was like, nah, sorry.
I know I really, really dislike. So actually, also fun fact, he is named Henry in the movie because they thought Victor sounded too harsh to American audiences. So Victor is his
Oh.
friend in the movie. So when you hear them say Victor, that's the friend. Meets Elizabeth to begin with, so he's Henry Frankenstein in the movie.
Oh, sorry, another fun fact.
Mhm.
So when the credits pop up at the beginning, if you see Frankenstein, it's a question mark. That's because they didn't want to drop who the monster was until the end, because Boris Karloff is famous for being Dracula, and they
He
didn't.
wasn't Dracula. Boris
Oh no,
Karloff was the original mummy.
that's it.
Another fun fact within your fun fact.
Oh, fun
Bella
fact, your fun fact is my fun fact.
Bella Lugosi was the original Dracula. They did like a 20-minute footage reel or something of him auditioning for it. And then Karloff got the role. Also, I think he was. Oh no, he wasn't. Never mind. Ignore that. But yeah, so Karloff got the role. He was actually late to acting until he was 44. when
Oh,
he was
wow.
started acting. So I think it's because he's quite tall,
Mhm.
and that's what I think helped him be the mummy, the monster, and the mummy. They were the two that he was. Boris Karloff. Also, I'm just going to continue this because I've been waiting
Mhm.
for the right time to say it. This is my fun fact.
Mhm.
So Boris Karloff, it was known. I was reading. I kind of fell down a rabbit hole, and it was like, oh, he didn't go to the premiere because people thought he wasn't like he was more less known of an actor at that time. And then the director James Whale was like, no, he didn't come because he had an injury, and left it at that. Then the further I read, James Whale actually didn't like Boris Karloff because the monster looked so good and he was getting all the attention. And this was how spiteful the director was. So the scene where he has to walk up the mountainside, it looks like a rocky mountainside, but I'm sure there were just stairs there. And he's carrying Frankenstein. So at that, played by Colin Clive, he made Karloff carry Colin Clive, who was also 6 foot, over and over again. And Clive felt really bad and tried to suggest using a dummy, but they wouldn't let him because James Whale didn't like him.
Wow.
Made him do it, yeah. So it part of me makes me
Wow.
think, oh, maybe James Whale didn't invite him to the premiere because he obviously didn't like him.
What a douchebag move.
Exactly. I'm like, you're working on this film to be like you're working on one of the first like horror films, and you've got a monster that everyone loves, and you hate him because everyone loves it. I know.
What? Like, I'm making the weirdest face right now. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, I have to tell Steph this is so weird and bizarre that a director would be like that because I don't know, he thought that the spotlight was being taken. But anyway, that's the fun fact around that. But everything you see of Frankenstein was completely created by this film. I don't remember the name of the prop person who did it, but yeah, the bolts in the neck, the stitching, all
Yeah.
of that was created for this film, and the reanimation process was completely done. So they really used their inspiration on that, and I thought that is such a cool element because I always thought that was in the book, and then when I found out it wasn't, I'm like, oh, it
And
makes me appreciate it so much more.
Frankenstein's completely different in the books.
Yeah,
And I wonder how they then, because obviously it's black and white, how they thought, let's make Frankenstein green.
he always was. If you read it, there was the
Oh,
intention
yeah.
that his skin was supposed to be green, but it's mixed in because I think at that time they had different sort of makeup because it
Mm,
was black and white. So like
mm.
leading ladies and stuff would have like grey palette sort of makeup to work with the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they mixed it in, but
Oh,
no,
yeah. No, no, sorry, that'd make sense because he's like rotting and yeah.
yeah, so it was always the intention he was meant to be like that. And the boots he's wearing were actual welder's boots.
Huh.
Yeah, that's why they look so heavy.
Yeah, and they probably had bloody rocks in there just to
Yeah, he
make you
probably did
feel
something
worse.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Another thing about Victor slash, no, Victor, because it's got nothing to do with Henry, is that when he's lying, like he's sick and he's like, and he's being accused of murder,
Yes.
and then
In
and
Ireland.
in Ireland, and they're like, "You've got a visitor." Oh no, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Come. And he's like, "Oh, it's my daddy." Oh, I could just
Yeah.
imagine him being like that little rich snooty kid that's like,
Yeah.
"Daddy's come, Daddy, save
I've
me."
been here for 2 months. It's been the worst 2 months of my life. And yeah, it
Yeah.
just, and even then, he didn't reflect on the fact that maybe he was the one in the wrong. It was just, oh, my cursed creation. It's like, well, hello, you were the one that pushed the boundaries. You were the one that pursued this.
And he didn't seem as distraught as what, I mean, to me, it didn't come across that he was that distraught that his friend died.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was just, I don't know. I also feel like in the book he may have had friends, but also that he didn't. He was a bit of an outcast and a loner, and it was because of his status in his family and wealth that sort of made
Hmm.
friends. That was the vibe I got. Just jumping to Henry, I think Henry played crazy broken down scientist at the beginning so much better than what he appears in the book.
Yes.
Like he looks mad as hence the mad scientist.
And when he was like fainting and things, I was like, oh, this is so, like, it was very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it was good. I really liked it. Do you want to move on to Elizabeth?
Yes.
So Elizabeth also, I feel, was very different because she was no longer related.
Yay.
She was just I think, part of the town that they're from, because he's the Baron's son.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just, it was interesting because she doesn't know about the creation, I guess, until the moment that she dies, and she sees him when she dies in the book. But in this one, he tells them what he's working on.
I know.
And I found it really, another really interesting point is she made the comment of when she was talking to Victor, the friend, she made a comment to say that Henry thought it best to tell me about all the experiments so that way he was open before they got married. Whereas in the book, he specifically said, I will not tell her until we're married, to ensure that she, doesn't run away in fear from me. Like he literally was going to lock her into the wedding contract and then tell her. That's how selfish he is in the book. Yeah, like super selfish in the book. It's like, okay, now we're married. Here's all my skeletons.
But I get, like, okay, I get that you want to be open and upfront, but like, why would you want to tell anybody? Like, I can kind of understand Victor in the book going, I don't want to tell anyone because what if any things go wrong? But like, it's a dick move that you're like, I'm going to wait until we're married on our wedding night. Hey, by the way, I've made a creature. But like, yeah, I didn't like, I don't know, it kind of lost its spark by saying, by the way, I am creating, these are all my things up front.
I don't think he said it in that, and to me I don't feel like it lost the spark. And the only reason he told and showed them is because they rocked up to the castle, or when which I love that they added that element that it was in a castle, because in the book he was still doing it in he was doing it in student dorms, and then he just found like an old room in a boarding house, so anyone was around while he was dismembering bodies.
Yeah.
But
wow, like, it's just, now we're talking about it, I'm like, there is so many differences.
So much. It's hard to really compare because they're pretty different, but they're also the same.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say at the beginning. I'm like, I love both of them equally. And it's so hard to compare because they're on such different levels.
But the acting in the movie is so good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like 1930s, like, I say, it wasn't kind of.
Oh, the Baron was a bit like that.
Oh, the Baron was a bit like that, yeah. But the acting wasn't, it was better than what I was expecting.
Yeah, even I think Elizabeth, she did have that silver screen, beauty.
She was beautiful.
Like looks that she did, and it was a specific way, when they tilt their head and it's all wistfully. She did have some of that, but at the same time, I feel like she wasn't a girl who's just gonna stand there until speak until spoken to sort of thing. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, she definitely was a different character as well. Like, I feel like in the book she was more innocent, going, where's my Victor?
Yeah,
I need him
a lot. Yeah. And I feel like in the book she was sheltered because the mother was so fragile as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to quickly move on to, and the best way I can categorize this would be the victims. Mm-hmm. So in the movie, the victim is Maria, the little girl, which that's in so many adaptations as well. It's always the girl or the little kid. Whereas in the book, it starts off with Frankenstein's little brother. And when he finds out the name, he's like, because and it's so sad that this is what is the snapping moment, is he finds a kid in the book and he's like,
yeah,
if you're young enough, you'll learn to accept what I look like. And it's that whole, tragic beauties within. And then the kid was screaming, I'm a Frankenstein. My father will do something if you take me. And he's like, Frankenstein, well, then I'm going to make him suffer like I suffered. And that's what causes him to, I guess, start picking off his family one by one. Whereas in the movie, And this is where it's just like so sort of semi-heartbreaking as well, because the little girl isn't afraid of what he looks like. She just accepts him as is, and it's like, come play with me. And
She
then
grabs his little she grabs his hand and she's like, "Come on, let's go play with
yeah,
the flowers." And I was like, "This is a really sweet moment."
yeah, and like,
Little
you
did I
know,
know.
little did you know. Did you know that what will happen to her when you watched it?
No, no.
Oh, okay, yeah. See,
Because
I knew. I was expecting it.
I knew, because I'd never seen anything. I don't know.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein had never interested me. I guess because I'm not a huge classic horror fan.
Yeah, no,
Like
fair.
I've never read Dracula. I've never seen the original Dracula.
Okay.
Okay.
I know what
Episode.
I'll be picking next year. We're
I've,
gonna go through all the original Universal horrors.
I wouldn't mind doing Anne Rice's Interview with the
Oh,
Vampire.
that's already on my list for next
Okay,
year,
fine.
by the way. I had already chosen that. I'm
Okay,
going to do the book to the movie, though. We're not going to look at the Abomination of the series.
okay. I'm not going to make a comment on that one.
Yeah, back to the little girl. It's just so sad because have you ever done something where you're like, oh shit, I gotta find something, like say for example, you accidentally lit something on fire and you're like, oh my god, I gotta go find water, and
Yeah,
then you
he used to
stumble
freak out.
around. And he does that when he realizes, oh, because he thought the little girl will love to also be in the water, and so he puts her in there, but she drowns, sadly. And then when you see him, he like slips running up the hill and everything to like look for someone because he's so panicked. And it just shows that even if he looks like that and you think it's got a criminal brain, so they're supposed to be even worse, which, you know, I don't think that had anything to do with it, but it just shows that even he cared for life and he was so panicked and no one really was there to help him because they like treated him badly and outcast him as a monster.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the victims, so what did you think?
I wasn't expecting little Maria to die, and that was like you said. But when Will died, I was just like, you idiot. You shouldn't have said anything. If you didn't tell him your name, you would have
Yeah.
survived.
But okay, I just had a thought, and I think this helps me summarize it. I think the movie gets the win. Sad in the movie because he didn't intend to do it, whereas in the book he had the cold impression, I'm gonna kill you. You know, I
Yeah.
am gonna be that monster you're calling me. It's like I finally snapped. I'll be what you think I am. Whereas in the movie he didn't mean to kill her. He didn't mean to come back to life. It's so much more tragic with one
And
killing in the movie compared to the book.
and I really like the fact that the book and the movie both are open-ended. So you
The
know that
book,
like
not so much.
Frankenstein dies and he says to his friend, "I need you to make sure you kill Frankenstein, to kill my
Yeah.
monster." But you don't know what happens. You know, does the monster continue? Does he,
Well, the monster says he was going to go and end himself anyway because really Frankenstein was the only one he had. Even if it was just him chasing him, it was the only bit of connection he had with anything.
I
And
guess,
that's what he was saying at the end.
and that Frankenstein was the only one who knew how to create life again.
Yeah, well, the monster had the book. That's when he said, I know how you did it. I have your journal, because remember, he just left him. He just
Hmm.
left his apartment. He's like, I'm not going to go back there. If I don't go back, it didn't happen, sort of thing. Like such a child of like ignorance, sort of. Anyway, so he had the book. He knew. Yeah. I feel like the book did kind of sort of wrap it up and end. And he even said, like, the secret will go to the grave with me. I will pretty much kill myself. Like, because there's nothing here for me now. Whereas in the movie, he did also die, the monster, at the end. But I also know there's a second film. I actually have never seen the second one. I really should watch it.
Do it. Which got me thinking when you were talking about like the victims and things, where he killed Will and then he took the brooch or the pendant and then he framed.
Yeah.
I was like, you're intelligent, man.
Well, he was smart, and like
I
I
know.
think And the thing is like he kept trying to say something to Victor, like, I am fully coherent. I know exactly what's happening. You're just calling me a monster, telling me to go and die again. But hello, we need to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fun fact, while we move on to prosthetics, sets, and miscellaneous, the lightning sounds of the castle were completely created and started with this Frankenstein film. So in a lot of other horror films that you'll sort of see it and hear it in, it came from this film.
Really?
Well, I mean, other people would have recorded it, but they were like the first ones to do it. I love it. It's just such a symbol of Halloween and horror.
I liked that at the beginning when they're digging the grave and you see like the cemetery, and it clearly looks like that they're a foam skeleton
on a
thing.
set,
I'm just like, is
all
that
facing front, so don't go around.
Yeah, and when they were climbing up that hill, and suddenly the coffin goes from flat to like straight up, you're like,
Yep.
okay, that looks. And then when they're like, shh, be quiet, the moon's almost up, you're like, you're making so much noise.
I know.
So much noise.
I love the hokiness of classic sets. They're very different, between the 30s and like 20s to 40s, I'd probably say, and you can really tell it's a stage set, so it's like you don't get that 360 view like you would in other films when the cameras are a bit better, and I kind of like it. It's like going to the theater without going to the theater.
And as soon as I like saw it all, I was like, this is why Ange likes it. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, and just seeing like when Frankenstein comes to life and you just see those little fingers, you're just like,
it's just little things like that really spark the imagination, and that's what I love about these films. Like it's so simple, and just story based is enough to have scared a lot of people and spark so much more from this in later generations to take inspiration from this. And I love the simpleness of it. Like modern day films sometimes, just because I think there's so much out there and everyone knows what's happening, they feel like they have to be 20 different plot twists and 15 kills and gore, and it's just like, you don't need that. It's just a simple story, and
this would have been really scary back in the day.
Yeah, because I mean, think about it. 1930s, still probably heavily Christian society, and
hence why they had to cut out the "I feel like I'm a god."
Yeah, it's blasphemy.
How dare they?
Yeah, but no, I love it. And the prosthetics of Frankenstein. So he is supposed to have that greenish skin, so obviously rotting skin, but to be that inspired by the book, to think of, make the perfect man by stitching him together. It's just like, who
putting
thinks
nuts
of
and
that?
bolts to keep his neck up.
Well, and I think the bolts are also there because that's where they're supposed to connect the electricity. You always watch them put like 2 clips there, so the electricity goes through, and it's just like, who even thinks of electricity to reanimate a corpse? It's just, even the laboratory in a castle, up on the top floor, it's just so the picture of horror, classic horror.
The one bit though that utterly, like, I was cackling was at the beginning when he saw that there was the normal brain and he took the lid off and he's running and then he drops it, and you're like, of course you're going to drop it, and he's being really loud, and then the other one, he doesn't take the lid off or take time, he just quickly grabs it, and he's like, you're just going to leave the other brain just there? You're not going to Okay. And he looked like Quasimodo, like hunched over, like, oh, I'm going to quickly run away.
Yeah, I always get the vibe that Igor was created similar to, now I'm going to hate myself for not remembering it. Renfield. Okay, I remembered it. So Renfield is a character in Bram Stoker's Dracula that he makes him. I guess you can kind of call Renfield and Igor a familiar. So when in some things they have a familiar to go and do things for them.
What we do in the shadows.
Yeah, but these are actual like creatures that have no brains, and they'll do anything for their master. So that's what Igor. Well, he's not even called Igor in this. He's called Fritz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the name I think has become popularized as Igor.
Mhm.
But yeah, anyway, so they're very similar sort of aspects there to have that sort of docile, familiar. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say about these today. I just hope maybe everyone else enjoyed it as much as I did. But let's move on to the question. How many books or book pages do you give the book first
Oh, yeah,
out
that's
of
right.
5?
Okay. So I'm probably going to give the book a 3.5. It was very slow to begin with. And it was, I mean, yes, okay, it's set in the 1800s, so the language is going to be a bit different. I kind of got over the fact that they over described everything, but I would probably read it again, not for a very long time.
Yep.
And the movie, I'm probably going to give it a 4. I like that it wasn't very long. I like that it was the first time I've ever seen Frankenstein brought to life. And I had lots of fun with this movie, and it tore at my heartstrings. And it was just, yeah, I did enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you on the book. I'd give it a 3.5. I really enjoyed that it expanded the story for me. I think that's similar to The Exorcist when I watched it, because I'd seen the film so many times, and then watching the book, it was like I got like deleted scenes edition, and that's what I feel like this book sort of did. It gave me so much. It really opened up the world of like Mary Shelley's world and the characters for me. So I agree, but it was slow at first. It was difficult for me to also get into. So yeah, that's why I would land at the 3.5. As for the movie, I'm going to go 4.5. I love this film. Even if it's black and white, I think the themes come across. So the horror of it, the science of it, the love between the main characters. So I think it all still comes across, even if it's black and white. I love the creativity, the vision they had for the lab, for the reanimation, for even what the monster looked like. I love that vision, and I think it sparked a lot from that, and that's why I'm going to land at a 4.5.
Yeah, cool, good.
So you did mention Goodreads, you only get the one one to do. I'm just trying to remember what you did for
I still
me.
got 2 choices.
No, for Hitchhiker's Guide, I think you gave me 3 guesses because
that's right.
Yeah, so we'll do the same for this one.
So
what do you think it got on Goodreads out of 5?
Okay, I have heard I was looking at different like reviews and things like that, and most people are like, it's so good, but I don't know whether or not it's underrated, because not many people, I don't know whether or not people have read it or people haven't read it. So I'm like, what am I going to say? I'm going to go with 7.5.
It's out of 5.
Oh.
I won't count that, guess.
3.5.
Higher.
4.5.
Lower.
3.75.
You were so close.
Oh!
It was 3.84.
Oh.
So I actually feel good about that. It's kind of similar to our views on the book. It was good, but it wasn't quite at that.
No, I just wish that the book kind of, I definitely like that it expanded on everything. I just felt like it went on a bit too long.
Yeah, there were some chapters, right? Like the chase. The chase went on forever. Him wallowing in his own self-pity because of something he created. That it just dragged on a bit. I definitely agree. Okay, so what do you think the 1931 film got on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm gonna go with what we both said. So I'm gonna go 4.5, 85%.
Higher.
Ooh, by much. 98%.
Drum roll, please. This is, I think, our first 100% film.
No, we have had another 100% film.
Oh, okay. Take my drum roll away then.
Wow.
No, it got 100%, and I'm like, you know what? I fully support that. It makes me want to change my rating from 4.5 to a 5, because it really is a good film. I have seen this film so many times and I love it. It's such a good film.
Audience, I'm gonna go. Well, Rotten Tomatoes got 100%, so I feel like you agreed with that. So I'm probably gonna go 96%.
Lower.
Oh, by much?
Yeah.
I feel like people don't appreciate this then. Do I go lower by 80s or do I go lower by 70s or do I go even lower than that? 81%.
It got 87.
Oh, okay, that's all right
It's
then.
pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I fully support this to be at 100%.
I do have a few fun facts about Mary Shelley. As we all know, she's so goth. Her parents were the founder of anarchism, an 18th century feminist pioneer.
Okay.
So technically, William Goodman is more like the forefather of modern anarchism philosophy, but still a very important figure amongst anarchists. But her mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, was the first pioneer of feminism movement at a time where it was extremely dangerous to advocate for women's rights. So also, if you look at the movie at the beginning, it doesn't quote it doesn't state that it's inspired by Mary Shelley. It actually states that it's inspired by it actually states her husband's name.
Yeah, because I think it was like his stuff, and she was
yeah.
Yeah.
Because, being a woman was terrible back then. She learned to read and write her name by tracing the letters on her mother's grave.
Oh my God.
Mary
That's sad. That
Mary
is gothic.
Mary disliked her father's new wife and her stepmother, so would often take solace at the grave of her mother. As they shared the same name, Mary Wollstonecraft, Mary's father thought it would be expedient to have her simply trace the letter on the grave to help her learn her name and read and write. And I'll just go one more. Mary Shelley also lost her virginity on top of her mother's grave.
Oh my God.
Mary and her beau, the then married Percy Bysshe Shelley, used Mary Wollstonecraft's grave as their secret meeting place and romantic hideaway. After declaring their love for one another, they gave it their ardent passion.
Wow. Wow, she is like complete goth.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so shall we move on to
Nerdison's Nerdy Notables?
I think this fortnight, Steph, you should say your notables first, because I'm going to wrap up my notables with a very, very short penny dreadful.
Okay, well, me and my sister were talking about how nobody likes our taste in music. So then we were listening in the car, and I was like, let me put some music on. So we were listening to Tool, and I'm like, far out, they're so good. And then Rammstein came on, and I didn't realize they have a new album out. So I've been listening to that and watching a whole bunch of their live shows because they're touring in Europe at the moment, and I really want to go see them. Also, the new Doctor Who trailer came out for the last one. What's her name?
Jodie Foster?
No, Jodie Foster.
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker. They think that Neil Patrick Harris is going to be the toy maker.
Ah, that would make sense with what he looked like.
Yeah, but like that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen to watch it just to finish her off.
Yeah. She's great. I liked her. It's the writing that sucked.
Yeah, it got really hard at the end. I didn't finish the last 2 episodes.
Also, speaking of horror movies and things, we still need to go see Smile. I've heard
we do.
that it is so good and it's nothing like we've ever seen before.
Okay, I'll find a night for us to go and watch it.
And so I saw, on like TikTok and Instagram and stuff, that people for the promotion, they were in like crowds, like at a football game, and that there was one girl just standing there smiling. I'm like,
Yeah, it was kind of like, I love promotions like that. Like with it, when it started in Sydney, they tied red balloons to all the drains in Sydney, and I'm like, that's so good.
And like the
perfect marketing.
Dracula marketing. Did you see that one where it was in the US and it was steaks, and in the day it just looked like steaks on the thing and it said Dracula, but then when it turned to night, the steaks actually turned into the shadow of Dracula.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that. I'll have to have a look on YouTube.
Yeah. All right,
So,
let's go.
all right, before I start, I'm just going to say why I chose this very, very short. This is very different from my other Penny Dreadfuls. It's not gory. It's not, a serial killer, but it's more like a local legend. And I chose this because I finally watched Hocus Pocus 2.
Okay, any good? I've heard mixed.
I actually like it. It's not as good as the first one, but it's not as bad as I thought. I had doubts, and I came out thinking, you know what, it was a pretty good story. And I just have to say, first of all, in the first 5 minutes, the actresses that they chose, you'll understand when you watch it because I don't want to give it away. Incredible. For that age, they must have watched the original like 1,000 times like I have.
That's what I've heard, is that they were really good. So my sister came over on the weekend, and she was like, oh my God, Hocus Pocus 2, Hocus Pocus 2. I was like, all right, calm down. Have the kids watched one yet? Because maybe we can all watch it together. The kids had never seen Hocus Pocus, so they lost their minds with the first one and thought this was the best thing ever.
It is the best.
So we didn't get to watch number 2 because it was late.
Definitely
but I want to watch it.
Okay, so the Penny Dreadful I've chosen today is Mole Dyer. It's a witch legend. I first of all just want to say like a shout out to Luke Marston. I don't really know who you are personally, but I did find most of this content. It all came from his site. There is actually not much on this at all. It's a very, very short dreadful, but I thought it'd be really cool to have a little local legend to talk about. And you'll understand why I chose this when you hear the reference.
Okay.
Mole Dyer was a legendary 17th century resident of Leonardtown in St. Mary's County, Maryland, who was accused of witchcraft and chased out of her home by the local townsfolk in the dead of a winter night. A road, a stream, and a large rock all bear her name in the current town today, and her story has inspired ghostly sightings and the plot of the 1990 film The Blair Witch Project. That's why I chose her.
Cool.
Pretty cool. So there's actually not much historical record at all, and there hasn't been anything found of Mole Dyer's existence, and not all stories that you can find on the internet you can agree on her origins. One popular story says she was an Irish noblewoman who came to the province of Maryland alone to escape a mysterious past, and settled in a cottage outside of what was then Seymour Town, later called Leonardtown. Her isolated way of living and shadowed past, along with her reputation as a herbal healer, drew suspicion among the locals, who labelled her as a witch and began blaming all the misfortunes and hardships in the town on her, despite her habit of giving cures to the townsfolk. Yeah. The winter of 1697 was particularly harsh. Food was scarce and many people died. The townspeople suspected Dyer of cursing the town, and after an epidemic, possibly influenza, swept through the area, killing many locals, a vigilante group of townsfolk decided to get rid of her. They set fire to her cottage in the middle of the coldest night of the winter, and Dyer fled into the nearby woods. Exhausted and freezing, the story tells that she knelt down on a large rock nearby, placed one hand on it, and raised her other hand to call down a curse upon the land and her persecutors. She was found frozen to death some days later, and when her body was removed, her frozen hand and knee left permanent impressions in the rock as an everlasting reminder of her fate and her curse. The supposed boulder was moved to the front of Leonardtown Courthouse, and although the handprint is no longer clearly visible, people have reported feeling profoundly uncomfortable or beset by terrible aches and pains around it, and cameras have reportedly malfunctioned. On the coldest nights of the year, people have reported seeing a woman with long white hair and a white dress walking through the fields and woods near the town, accompanied by a white dog. That's the
I'm like
legend
creeped
of
out.
Moldire, the witch. Now, because it is short, I did sort of look for other, I guess, sightings that people have claimed to say. So, some fun history around the legend, but the boulder was found by a historian called Philip H. Love, who was fascinated by the story, came to the town, and he met this local who was a grocer. This grocer lived nearby and claimed to have known about the rock since he was a young boy, leading Love, the historian, to the location. In 1972, the 875-pound boulder was moved by the National Guard from a wooded ravine near Moldire Road into the Leonardtown Courthouse lawn in front of the old 1876 jailhouse, which now serves as the St. Mary's County Historical Society building, which I thought was pretty fun. It's I've got another one though. Just one last sort of sighting. So stories say her spirit haunts the land, looking for the men who forced her from her home. The land near the cabin is said to be cursed, never again growing good crops, and an unusual number of lightning strikes have been recorded there. A white dog is mentioned as causing accidents on Moldire Road. One interviewer reported that while hunting along Moldire's Run around 1970, he saw a very dense fog patch, cylindrical in shape, with the light emanating about 8 inches down from the top. It crossed the stream and went east, moving across the wind instead of with the wind, then turned and went south. But what made it really strange was that it did it twice. I'm not saying that it was the spirit of Moldire. I just don't know what it was.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You know how to choose the ones that creep me out.
Lastly, as I mentioned about the boulder, so legend says that the rock itself is cursed, and people who have gone near it or touch it experience misfortune, including dizziness, fainting, and illness. So I thought, I know it's not as gory as my usual Penny Dreadfuls, but I thought, since, Hocus Pocus came out a week ago, and a bit of,
Halloween goodness
for witches. I haven't done a witch one before, and I thought since this one inspired the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, Blair Witch, even though I know that it was fake, it still creeped me out.
Oh yeah, even when I was a kid, I was like, oh, this is scary.
That one and Paranormal Activity.
That one was alright.
No, that I'm easily freaked out.
Yeah,
those two. Although the scariest movie I've ever seen, Insidious. So I first of all, during the day, I watched a movie about cults and cults and exorcisms and things. And then my friend was like, hey, you want to go see Insidious? And I'm like, I'm scared. Don't worry, it's not going to be that bad. Whatever. I was like, okay. So went to the movies. It was late at night. There wasn't many people there. I was wearing my hoodie and I had to squish it over my head. So only my eyes were hanging out, and I was trying to stick popcorn in my mouth. And I screamed so loud that I tipped my popcorn everywhere. And so I was so freaked out by that movie, and I can't that movie is probably the one that scared me the most.
That's funny. But would you like to tell everyone what your choice is next fortnight?
So next fortnight, I'm doing along the lines of Halloween again. I'm doing the 1950s House of Wax versus the 2005 House of Wax. And I'm also going to be giving you a Penny Dreadful.
Yay!
So I'm really excited to do these ones. yeah, because I didn't know that House of Wax was even a remake.
Yeah, same. I didn't know until I watched
And
it a while ago.
and I was just like, I remember it being so trashy but so good. If you want to follow us at Nerdazons on Facebook and Instagram, we'd love to hear from you at nerdazons@outlook.com. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and wherever you get your good podcasts.
Until then, stay nerdy.
Ooh.